What's up, guys? We're back, and Mel Kipers just released his full 2-round mock draft. And today I thought it would be fun to go ahead and break that down, mock the mock, break down the mock, whatever you want to call it. It's a tradition that goes back to since I was a little kid. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm going to go ahead and break down every pick here. Kiper went ahead and started it out with Cam Ward. This is pretty much what everyone expects to happen at the top of the draft. Unless a team comes out of nowhere and offers a haul of draft picks, I also expect the Titans to stick here and grab quarterback Cam Ward. And then this is where the draft really starts. Pick 2. Are the Browns going to take a quarterback here? Is Shedeur Sanders in play? If they don't take Shedeur Sanders, it comes down to Abdul Carter versus Travis Hunter. Mel Kiper has them going with Travis Hunter here, and most likely the scenario is going to lead to them taking a quarterback in round 2. Then we get to the New York Giants, another likely destination for Shedeur Sanders. But with them now having Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, Abdul Carter probably would make more sense. Or they just sit here and take whoever the Browns don't take, either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. Moving on to number 4, then, that puts the Patriots in an interesting position. If Shedeur Sanders doesn't go in the top 3, then the Patriots have a tough choice there, and it's probably going to come down to offensive line versus D-line. Mason Graham on the D-line, or you take Armand Membu or Will Campbell for the O-line. Kiper went with Will Campbell here. I'm not going to argue it. And then you have Mason Graham to Jacksonville. This one makes a lot of sense. I've had this in both of my mock drafts as well. I do think the Jags could surprise some people and Mason Graham could fall. If he doesn't go to the Jags right here at pick 5, I could see him falling all the way to pick 10. Next up, we have the Raiders, and this would be another logical destination for Shedeur Sanders. I think the Raiders are a sleeper to pick a quarterback. I know they just re-signed Geno Smith to a 3-year deal, but he's still kind of just a bridge quarterback, and we just saw it happen last year as well. The Falcons paid Kirk Cousins, and then they went ahead and drafted Michael Penix Jr. Look where they're at now. They turned to the young guy, and Kirk Cousins is on his way out. I actually could see Kirk Cousins landing with the Cleveland Browns, but in this mock, the Raiders are taking Ashton Genty. I could also see Ted McMillan being an option here as well. And then we have the Jets, and this one I think is just kind of a perfect fit, a shoe-in at pick 7, Armand Membu. He's going to come in. He's going to be your starting right tackle from day one. Kudos to Mel Kiper for this one. I know a lot of people are considering Tyler Warren here, but I do think Membu is going to be the pick if he's on the board at pick 7. This is another very popularly mocked pick here. Jalen Walker to the Panthers. And a lot of people don't understand this one, but Jalen Walker is a difference maker. This is a guy who was an off-ball linebacker at Georgia, but he gets after the quarterback and he profiles as a difference maker in the NFL. Then you finally have Shedeur Sanders going off the board to the Saints here at pick 9. He's actually Mel Kiper's top-ranked quarterback, and I think this destination isn't very bad. And I think this is a sleeper destination for Shedeur here. Yes, they have Derek Carr, but with how much they're paying him, the cap issues they have, and the success he's had, I think finding their future at the quarterback position is something that the Saints need to do sooner rather than later. And then we get to the Chicago Bears. They end up taking Tyler Warren here. I think this is going to be a popular selection in mock drafts because Ben Johnson spoke about Tyler Warren, and now you're going to see a lot of people mocking him here. And then we have the best corner in the draft going to the 49ers. This one's open, and honestly, I don't know where the Niners are going to go here. There's a lot of different scenarios they could take, but Will Johnson is arguably the best player on the board. Then we get a surprise here. The Cowboys going with Omarion Hampton. Ooh, this is tough. I think they'd rather take a receiver here, especially in this scenario where not a single wide receiver has been taken, meaning they have their choice between Emeka Egbuka, Luther Burden, Matthew Golden, and Ted McMillan. I think they would go Ted McMillan in this situation, but what do I know? Then we have the Dolphins taking Jahdae Barron. I'm really interested to see where he goes in this draft, but I think he would be a good fit with the Dolphins here. Although with Terron Armstead's retirement, I think they might look towards maybe getting a left tackle here, even though they did get Patrick Paul last season. 14, the Colts are taking Colston Loveland. This is another popular mock draft selection. I won't argue this one. Mike Green to the Falcons. This one has been popular as well. The Falcons need help on that defensive line, and Mike Green is one of the more productive edge rushers in this entire class. Then we have another interesting pick coming up next. The Cardinals taking Matthew Golden, another big, speedy receiver to pair with Marvin Harrison Jr., and the highest paid tight end in the NFL in Trey McBride. This would give Kyler Murray plenty of weapons. I'm not sure about the fit here. I had the Cardinals going defensive line, but Matthew Golden is flying up draft boards. The Bengals then take a surprise pick here. This is one I haven't seen yet, but this does make a ton of sense. The Bengals need help at linebacker, and Jahad Campbell is the best in the entire class. A lot of people will have them looking to replace Trey Hendrickson here, but I think this is just a smart pick by the Bengals. Then we have the Seahawks addressing the left tackle position, taking Kelvin Banks Jr., bringing in a guy to come in and protect Sam Darnold. I can't argue with this one. The only question is, where is Kelvin Banks going to fit on this line? Is he going to beat out Charles Cross, or is he going to move inside to guard? Then we have the Bucks taking one of my favorite players in this draft, Nick Amanawore. This guy is a monster. You put him near the line of scrimmage, he can cover tight ends, he can cover slot receivers, he's going to help against the run. He would be a dream addition for Todd Bowles in this Bucks defense. And then we finally get to the fall of Tet McMillan. I'm curious about this one from Mel Kiper, because I have Tet McMillan going as high as number 6 to the Raiders. And if he doesn't go to the Raiders, I still think he has a chance to go in the top 10. People have him fallen here mainly because he ran a 4.5 40, but he's the exact same size as Mike Evans and Drake London, two other receivers that ran 4.5 40s. I don't understand him falling down the board like this. At 21, the Steelers take Derek Harmon. This guy is just a really good football player. You pair him next to Keanu Benton, and that Steelers D-line would cause people problems. At pick 22, we have the Chargers taking Gray Zabel, helping out that offensive line. I don't know about this pick. To me, I think this is a little bit high for Gray Zabel, and with Emeka Egbuka and Luther Burden on the board, I think the Chargers should opt to either bring in another weapon on offense or upgrade the defensive line, which is what the Packers do with the next pick, taking defensive lineman Mykel Williams. He played through an ankle injury this year, but again, the Packers love adding talent to their front seven on defense, so this fits their draft philosophy. And then we have one of my guys going with the next pick, Donovan Jackson from Ohio State, the left guard who filled in at left tackle down the stretch. He's one of my favorite players in the draft. I have a second-round grade on him, but it would not surprise me to see a team take him at the end of round 1. And then we have a surprise pick here, Josh Connerly Jr. to the Texans. I think health plays a big role here because you have Josh Connerly Jr. going above Josh Simmons. This is something to watch as we get closer to the draft, but the Texans definitely need help on that O-line. And then another surprise here, I did a double take on this one. I know the Rams might be looking to replace Matthew Stafford at some point, but taking Jackson Dart here at pick 26, I think this would be confusing for Rams fans. But Matthew Stafford is 37 years old, and they have to look towards the future at the position. And this next pick shouldn't surprise anyone. The Ravens are a team that are used to picking in the 20s in the draft. They make the playoffs every year, and they somehow find great talent even in the 20s of the draft. Malachi Starks fits that bill. He is a stud playmaker in the secondary. Detroit Lions then add to their pass rush with Donovan Izaraku. This one makes a lot of sense. I can't argue this. And then we finally figure out where Shamar Stewart goes, a guy who absolutely tore up the Combine and the Senior Bowl, but he never had more than 1.5 sacks in a year, and it is hard to find him a spot in the draft. But the Commanders need help on that pass rush, and Dan Quinn could be the key to unlocking his potential. At 30, everyone knows the Bills need help at cornerback. You bring in Maxwell Harrison. This is just a perfect fit. And here we go, guys. This is one I definitely wanted to talk about. You do not want to see the rich get richer like this with the Kansas City Chiefs. Being able to land a guy who, if he didn't injure his knee, might have been a top 5 pick in this draft, and they're able to land him at pick 31. Left tackle Josh Simmons. He's honestly one of the hardest people to place in this entire draft for me right now. I don't know where he's going to go, but he's fallen down everybody's draft boards. Some people have him in round 2, but the Chiefs probably would snatch him up right here at the end of round 1. And then here we go again. Talk about the rich getting richer. James Pierce Jr., who in my opinion is the second best pure pass rusher in this entire draft, ends up going to pick 32 to the Eagles, where Vic Fangio is going to get the most out of him and help develop his traits into a legit sack artist. Do not let this happen on draft day. And now let's go ahead and go into the second round. Seeing how that first round played out, there are still a ton of big name players on the board here, and this is what I'm looking forward to most in this year's upcoming draft, the talent that'll still be on the board early in day 2. The Browns started off with Tyler Shuck. They didn't take a QB in round 1, so this is just one of those picks that just meh. I'm not a huge fan of it, but whatever. Same thing with the Giants here. Skipping a quarterback in round 1, and then taking Jalen Milroe in round 2. Both of these picks are a little questionable to me. If these teams really are going to take quarterbacks in those situations, most likely they're going to trade up a pick or two so they can at least get their quarterbacks on first round contracts and have that extra year with the 5th-year option. Taking a quarterback with the first 2 picks of the second round doesn't make a ton of sense. But then we get to the real meat of round 2. First off, a pass rusher, Olu Oladejo, goes to the Titans, and then Emeka Egbuka, a guy who's been seen as a first-round talent for a few years now, goes at pick 36 to give Trevor Lawrence a new weapon in Jacksonville. And then at 37, we see one of the biggest sleepers in this draft, Carson Schweisinger, the linebacker out of UCLA. This guy has potential first-round pick upside, and I know a lot of people don't know his name, but he is going to go early on day 2 if he doesn't end up being a first-round pick. And then Luther Burden. This is a guy who was projected by most people to be a top 10 pick 6 to 8 months ago, now fallen to pick 38 to the Patriots, and that's going to give Drake May another weapon along with the new addition Stephon Diggs. Then we see the fall of Walter Nolan, another guy who potentially was thought to be a top 10 pick about 6 months ago, would now beef up the interior of the Chicago Bears defensive line, joining Grady Jarrett, Gervon Dexter, and Andrew Billings. This would really shore up that interior. And then another one of my favorite players in the draft, Azariah Thomas from Florida State, the shutdown corner. Going to New Orleans, they took Shedeur Sanders in round 1. So instead of grabbing Will Johnson, they grabbed their quarterback of the future, and then they still land a stud corner in round 2. And then the Bears add a weapon on offense. There are a couple running backs in this class who flash a lot of similarities with Jahmyr Gibbs. Travion Henderson is one of those guys. The Jets go ahead and grab a stud tight end prospect, Elijah Arroyo. And then this is the pick that really blew my mind. Kenneth Grant, falling all the way to pick 43 to the 49ers. First, I don't believe the Bears would have taken Walter Nolan over Kenneth Grant, but Kenneth Grant at pick 43 would be one of the biggest steals in the entire draft. And then you have the Cowboys landing Trey Amos, helping out their cornerback room. Jonah Savaiinaea, the big guard right tackle prospect from Arizona. He goes to Indianapolis to help out their O-line. Benjamin Morrison, cornerback from Notre Dame I really like, goes to the Falcons. And the Cardinals land a stud selection in round 2. A guy seen as a top 15 pick before he tested at the Combine. Tyler Booker at pick 47. He's a plug-and-play starter from day 1. Put this guy on your O-line and let him pancake people. And then we're sticking in the trenches, but then on the defensive line, Darius Alexander out of Toledo. I really like this guy. He would help the Dolphins front. And JT Tui stays in the state of Ohio, going to the Bengals. He would be a guy to come in and work behind Trey Hendrickson. The Seahawks take a really talented corner out of ECU. And then we have my guy, Quinshon Judkins, going to the Broncos at pick 51. he would probably come in and be their starting running back from day one. Quinshawn Judkins would help that team out a ton. The Seahawks then have another pick and go with Jaden Higgins, a guy who had an awesome career and had a really good Senior Bowl. I like Jaden Higgins. Watch out for him. He would help that wide receiver room. Currently, they have two slot guys. They have JSN and Cooper Kupp. Jaden Higgins would be a good fit. And this pick is crazy to me. Nick Scorton is a guy who I had as a top 15 pick for probably the last year and a half. And here he is going at pick 53 to the Bucks. And that really shows you the depth of talent in this draft and how deep it is. When a guy like Nick Scorton can fall this far, and to be honest, this isn't a crazy scenario. He probably is going to fall to round 2, although I could see him going at the end of round 1, but his draft stock does seem to be going down slightly. He is one of my favorite players on day 2. Jack Beck, this guy has a great story. Also continues the Packers tradition here. They addressed the front 7 in round 1, went to a wide receiver in round 2. Chargers land Mason Taylor, and then the Bills land my guy, defensive tackle Tyleik Williams. This guy is a monster and would continue upgrading that defense for the Bills. The Panthers end up adding another weapon for Bryce Young here, Isaiah Bond, the speedster out of Texas. Jalen Knoll, another good receiver out of Iowa State, goes to the Texans to help CJ Stroud, and that's a team that needs help at wide receiver. They lost Stephon Diggs, and then Tank Dell might not play all season due to his knee injury. So this is a need pick for the Texans. The next pick surprised me a little bit. David Walker is a sleeper of mine. I have him as a round 3 to 5 sleeper pick. But in this draft, all it takes is one team to really fall in love with a player, and they're going to determine players' values. That's what's really unique about this draft. David Walker to the Ravens, and then we have the Lions taking Anthony Belton. I kind of thought he was a guy who'd have to move to guard in the NFL, but he showed at the Senior Bowl that he might be able to hold up at tackle. Then we have a sleeper corner going, Darian Porter to Iowa State. Xavier Watts finally goes off the board late round 2 to the Bills, adding more help to that defense and the secondary. And here's another one of my guys, Caleb Johnson, the Iowa running back, goes to the Chiefs. Too many people make a big deal out of his lack of 40 speed. He ran 22.2 miles per hour, and he had a faster 40 time than David Montgomery or Emmitt Smith. Let's not make too big of a deal out of his 40 time. He's a player I really like. And then we end the draft with the Philadelphia Eagles taking another player that I really enjoyed watching in college. Kevin Winston Jr., the safety out of Penn State. If he wouldn't have got hurt, he was potentially a late first-round pick, and he goes to the Eagles at the end of round 2. Overall, I thought this draft was pretty fun. I thought Mel Kiper does a really good job of placing these guys. Some of the team fits aren't perfect, but he is connected in the NFL, and this year's draft's all about finding the range of where these guys are going to go. It's such an unpredictable year when it comes to the draft, and I think a month from now when we look back at this draft will end up being semi-accurate when it comes to what range these players are going to fall. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Let me know what you guys think about this one. I appreciate everybody who watches. Please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button for more year-round draft content, and stay tuned for more.